Hello, folks. Welcome to Joe's Writers Club live stream, JWC Livestream. Story Autopsy with Ricky and Tom. I'm your host, Ricky. This is Tom. Tom, where are you?
I'm here. How you doing?
Oh, not too bad. Little technical difficulties. We're getting by. We're a little late, but better late than never, as they say.
Right.
It's been for me, everything's been peachy. Stuff's looking up. No bummers, not too many bummers. I know it's a world full of bummers, but creativity keeps us on point. Been working on a lot of projects lately. I'm doing this sci-fi novel, Chiron 6. I just had a breakthrough on the outlines. I'm almost done. I'm halfway done with the book, but I'm almost done with the whole outline too. And it looks like it's going to get real tasty. I'm writing Athenium with David Anderson, the poet. That's turning out really great. I'm enjoying that. Even the Choose Your Own Adventure book thing is pretty cool, and new ideas keep popping up all over the place. So I'm having a ball. How have you been, Tom?
Oh, excellent.
And how's your creative life going?
Very, very good. I'm about 90% done with my first nonfiction work. Just a little book of tips and ideas on how to get started writing. I'll call it So You Want to Be a Writer. And,
cool. Advice book. Advice. Nice.
Yeah, I put a whole bunch of photos in there, illustrating points, a lot of quotes from authors for each chapter. So far, so good. And in my Florida novel, I finally have dealt with the antagonist. So the book is probably wrapping up another chapter or two. So it'll be ready for my second go through. I'll convert it all to Word and then maybe a PDF and shoot it out to you and see what you think.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's long overdue. I haven't seen that. You've added a lot to that since the last time I looked at that manuscript. I can tell you that for nothing. That'll be good to take a peek, because that's a labor of love. You've been working on that for years,
Yeah, 4 or 5 years.
I feel like ever since I known you,
Probably.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And doesn't it feel great to have creativity and to be able to do all these projects and set the world aside every once in a while,
Oh, sure. Yep.
Yeah, I feel the same way. So how about this, Tom? Do you have anything to read today?
Yes, I thought we would continue with War of the Night, Black Ice Assassins, the chapter 3 of book set in Shirella's world. This chapter is called Night of the Raven Rats.
Oh man! All right.
All right.
Lay it on us.
Night of the Raven Rats. All right. The king stood at his window, high above the streets of Ansago. He was Varan III, king of Onier, and he was old. Much of what had happened during his reign, now events were going on that made him concerned for the future of his kingdom. A fire burned out of control on the far shore of the Kylan River. The culprits were still free. Rumors had it that the Kylan demon raiders had struck where Varan II had once hammered out a precarious truce with them. "Why is this happening, sire?" asked Sheffin, the king's new vice consul. Sheffin had come from Angral after Varan's previous vice consul perished in a fire. "For over 80 years, began the king, the Kylan demon raiders have sailed the entire length of the Kylan River, looting, pillaging, and burning at will. They were pirates far worse than those of the Sea of Sighs. The efforts of the kingdoms of Rivena and Brenwall drove out the pirates of the Sea of Sighs. There are hundreds of islands between Rivena and Ferbellen in the shattered bracelet for the pirates to hide and strike from. The demon raiders, in contrast, used the wide ribbon of the Kylan River, north and south of Islak, to operate in," said Sheffin. "Correct, sire. Inside of Islak, their activities comprised raids on the border towns of Arvisan at the Onyir border and Rylos at the border of Arbudan. No one can identify or stop the raiders. They attack ships docked at port and ships crossing the border out of Islak. The Iridani would not cross their borders to seek retribution for the acts of piracy, nor do they allow Arbudan or Onyir to enter Islak in pursuit of the raiders. The king turned away from the window and stared at Sheffin. So savage and swift are the attacks on the raid by the raiders that no one has ever seized one of their ships sunk in one of the 83 years of the raids. They roamed the river at will, coming and going like ghost ships. That they can travel upstream to Bagyur is as easy as they can sail downstream to Kelsh. This impresses and frightens the merchants and traders whose livelihood depends on the river and goods brought to Onsago. They are still active, are they not? Yes, the sleek black raider ships have attacked many a merchant sailing peaceful toward Onsago or any other towns along the river. They approach against the current. Did you know that? Yes, Your Majesty. None of our ships can match their speed or their ferocity on the water. They are very skilled. I have to say that. Their black ships pull up next to an unsuspecting merchant. Dozens of lines filled with hooks like cat claws shoot out. This tangles the ships together, and the merchant vessel has no chance. How is it possible for them to maneuver like that? Asked Sheffin. I sometimes forget that you are a stranger and don't know any of our history. Listen and learn. Demon Raider ships can hold both ships dead in the water for as long as it takes them to strip their prize clean. They have the power to move anywhere in the water, whether by magic or something else. Forgive me, Your Majesty, but they sound most formidable. Are there ever any survivors among the merchant crews? No. Afterwards, with the merchant ship crew dead and its cargo safe on board the raider, the empty vessel drifts away, often on fire. The burned out husk stops any thoughts of the merchants of fighting back against an enemy who moved as they pleased, regardless of current or wind. No such thoughts ever entered the minds of rulers of these lands to learn how such vessels can exist. Fear has kept them from acting. How about you, Your Majesty? It's a struggle to get the basics done, said Varan. I am so tired so often. It was my grandfather who first took matters into hand. He declared war against the demon raiders. Islak, Turval, Arbudan, and Rivina joined forces with us under a quickly drawn-up treaty. None of the other leaders from the Southern Union were receptive to the idea and rejected the participation. The king drifted off into his thoughts, trying to piece together the stories he had heard so long ago. My father and my grandfather both dealt with the pirates in a way that calmed the citizens of 1 year. I forget the original treaty as a new way to cope came to pass. Appeasement and ignorance were the orders of the day. We set up endless committees, and they met regularly. Each committee sent out a sheriff or a small party to determine damages, estimate repair costs, calm the locals, donate to local temples and other civic causes. They negotiate with local guilds for the rights to rebuild all damaged areas. That sounds like a good plan, sire. Ha! The result of all this running in place has not resulted in the capture or death of a single demon raider. I've grown less tolerant of each new committee and their increasing need for funding. A new committee cropped up last week. What was it now? Oh, yes. The purpose is to help the young children and their mothers who lost their businesses to the raiders. They deprived these unfortunates of their former living conditions and thus could not remain in their social situations. Who was in charge of these new committees? Asked Shepin. The king's vice counsel swallowed hard and looked the king in the eyes. Many of them are the work of Morgan, said the king with a sneer. Morgan had arrived in Onyir 5 years ago and had prospered in a short time. He was a man whose sole goal was to help those who could not help themselves. It didn't matter to him that anyone who wasn't a noble fit into the subscription of needy. His charm and wit earned him an audience with the king, who soon saw the need to help the non-noble live a better life. Varan III created the Citizens Guild at Morgan's urging. It will bring better conditions to those people who lived in the mud and the squalor. These committees have done a lot of good to the kingdom, sire, said Sheffin. He felt as if he were standing on a pile of sand, losing his footing despite the struggle to stay in one place. I see, said the king. He gave it some thought. The committee joined the ones that had already provided for the general welfare of families, minus a spouse due to war, disease, business competition, etc. Onier was going bankrupt, and Varan had been hard-pressed to come up with solutions. His aides stepped in to help and soon made the king's life easier. Varan III had grown less competent as the decades passed. He relied more and more on his aides, delegating more power and influence to them each year. The king didn't seem to mind, as it made his head hurt less if he didn't have to make so many hard choices. One of these aides was Tacit, Minister of State. Tacit held the ear of the king better and longer than most. The king watched the apprentices from the Temple of Esh build a feeble firewall to keep the hungry flames from reaching their domicile. The flames licked at 2 of the 3 towers of the temple. Varan sighed and shook his head. Shephan, you may go now. I tire of these matters. As the vice council moved away, another minister entered the room. It was Tacit. Tell me again, Tacit, about my order to close the northern border at Irelna. The king had good head for his kingdom security. Have we carried it out? Tacit shifted from his right foot to his left, holding a small writing tablet. He read from it as the king turned to look at him. Tacit wore his minister's garb, a sharp-cut outfit in various shades of gray. He had an air of smugness about him that made him look like an overripe melon. We can stop there.
All right.
So
I can dig what you're doing with that. It's basically court politics stuff, trade route stuff, potential intrigue, ambition, agenda, all the stuff that makes court fantasy happen. You know, Game of Thrones, even a little bit Game of Thrones-ish, just a little bit.
With the Demon Raiders, whose ships can go anywhere they please, upriver, downriver, against the wind. They have high tech. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, right on. It was a good read, a good little section. Hey, Amber, how you doing?
Yes.
Doing good. Sorry I'm late, guys.
Better late than never. We were late ourselves. It's good to have you. Tom just finished up a read, and I dug the intrigue, man, because that stuff is not so easy to lay down all the time. Not everyone does it well, you know. Sometimes it can wander off, and you're just like, people break off at Expo that's not properly executed. But I think you have an example of something that's without a doubt serviceable, even in that draft, you know.
Right.
I dug it. Politics are not always easy to make interesting, and it wasn't boring to me, you know. So good stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, Varema's awesome, and anytime you read Shirilla is good as far as I'm concerned. We're kind of having a short show today, Amber. Beyond being late, there's just reasons. There's reasons, but suffice it to say, Tom did his read. Do you have anything to read today?
Well, have I read from the Shattered Sky on live stream yet?
Yes,
I think
so.
I think you have, yes. Even though it is great, it's Dreams of Fire, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that one.
And I think I read.
Go ahead.
I read like the first chapter. I could probably read a little more. I have a really potentially triggering, but kind of, depending on your point of view, a happy ending, dark crime short story.
Yours are always so impactful, let's say. So it makes me wonder whether or not we can have this. Because no one, ouch. Oh my, you okay?
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, let's see. What chapter? I think you did chapter 1 and 2 of the Shattered Sky. Would you be able to read like, a couple thousand words of chapter 3?
Sure.
Because I'm pretty sure you read 1 and 2, and I'm feeling more on the light side. I love your dinos. I think there'll be no harm done there, right? It's not like a T-Rex is gonna whoosh,
No, not really so far.
Okay. Well, let's pull again. You never know, and I'm not one that's for censorship or anything, but give us a couple thousand words of chapter 3, and then because we can keep that going.
Sure. Although my chapters are kind of long. I think I read chapter 1 because it was in 2 kind of sections. It was the introduction to Dreams of Fire and then her dream.
Yeah. I understand that it may not be easy. Maybe highlight, I don't know, 1,000 words, 2,000 words, and read it like that. It's a little impromptu, folks, because we're a little bit behind with technical issues, but that it's we're doing it. We're having fun. So yeah, 1,000 words, 2,000 words of that. Let's hear it, Amber.
Sure.
Hopefully you can share the screen too.
Well, let's see if it'll let me.
That's the key. Yeah.
I told it to. Is it sharing?
I don't know.
I don't see it saying that it's sharing. I'm going to have to just read without sharing because it doesn't want to cooperate.
That's okay. Don't worry about it. Let's not risk what we got. You go ahead and read it without sharing. It's fine by me.
All right. Not far from where Dreams of Fire and Howling Wind attempted to outrun death, others of their kind were also uneasy. Stalker wasn't sure if it was his injury or something more that had him looking for danger to the southwest. He didn't understand why the sight of the sky filled him with foreboding. What were his instincts trying to tell him? When the rest of his pack moved off, Stalker was not surprised that nightfall hung back. He waited until he could no longer smell the others before he moved out of hiding and let nightfall find him. There was concern in Nightfall's yellow eyes before his brother swiftly hid it. He dipped his head with its cap of bright red feathers to acknowledge Stalker's presence. I know I look bad, Stalker said, dipping his own brightly capped head. His feathers were molting, and he had a few scrapes that weren't healing as well as they should. He was scrawny, and his red-brown skin had lost the glow of health. You can't come back to the pack, Nightfall said in a firm voice. You shouldn't even be hanging around. Why are you here? Stalker ducked his head between his shoulders. I don't know. Sense of uneasiness. Something's wrong, but I can't figure out what. It makes me worry for the pack. It's not your place up the pack. That's for me to do. Stalker hunched his shoulders more. I know you're the leader and you're good at it, but this isn't a normal danger I'm sensing. I don't know what it is. Nightfall growled and dug his talons into the earth. If you find out what the danger is and it's something real, you can come back and tell me about it. But until you figure this out, I don't want you anywhere near the pack. Onyx has promised to kill you. I know, Stalker said sadly. I understand her concern. Maybe I'll scout around. Maybe then I can figure it out. Do that. Nightfall's voice turned cold. Then do yourself a favor and don't come back. Stalker bowed his head. He had no doubt that Nightfall meant what he said. With 5 chicks to feed, 5 chicks to teach how to hunt, the pack couldn't afford the added variable of a hungry hanger-on. Stalker's presence would make the mothers fear for the success of future hunts, since learning chicks tended to mess up a pack's hunting prospects for a couple of months, and it was reasonable of them to fear that Stalker's hunger would overcome prudence and cause him to leap out at the prey before the pack could be sure of the kill. He would need to steer clear of his pack until the chicks were grown. Then his presence at the fringe of the pack would be tolerable to the others. He could keep track of which direction they had gone and follow behind, always a day or two late. That would keep him sufficiently distant to alleviate the other's fear and allow him to be nearby if he ever figured out what was bothering him so much. When he raised his head to tell his brother that he would willingly leave, Nightfall was gone. Nightfall paced through the forest, troubled by his brother's vague warnings. It wasn't like Stalker to worry about a threat that wasn't immediately apparent. He was not the sort to spook at shadows and whisper of spirits. He had never been troubled by the sort of uneasiness he had described. It was probably nothing. After all, Stalker was badly injured, nearing death. Maybe facing his own death was making him go a bit strange in the head. Nightfall hurried himself along. There were no other predators that he was sensing, but he was a pack animal at heart and he did not like to be alone. It was simple enough for him to track the others. His conversation with Stalker hadn't taken much time, and the scent left by his pack was still fresh. He found the others at the edge of the forest, overlooking an open plain leading into a shallow pond where a small herd of corythosaurs were grazing on the water plants. The chicks were excited, and it was taking considerable effort by the adults to keep them from darting out into the open and alarming the corythosaurs. "Dad!" Runs in the Ferns pounced on Nightfall as soon as he was nearby. "Dad, look at all the food!" Nightfall dipped his shoulders so his chick could climb onto his back. "I see it. Keep calm. It isn't time to single one out yet." "I want to chase them." Runs in the Ferns jiggled in excitement and nearly fell from his perch. "I know, boyo. Why don't you race with Tailchaser and Squealer? That should take care of your need to run." Runs in the Ferns pouted. "Nobody can catch Tailchaser." "It will make you stronger to try." "Okay." The chick sprang off his father's back, landing lightly enough to impress Nightfall, and darted off in search of the other chicks. The adults breathed a nearly unanimous sigh of relief when the chicks began their chase games, dodging around trees so they could jump out at each other. The game would keep them within the forest, since there was no fun in pouncing at a packmate if there were not enough hiding places. "They have young," Bonebreaker said to Nightfall as he joined the other adults. "Some more developed than others, but there's one I was checking out." "This herd has been attacked recently," Morning Fog said, bouncing a little. "One of the half-grown corythosaurs is injured. It's a little bigger than something we would usually go after, but it's already been weakened. If we can separate it from the others, it shouldn't be hard to bring down." Nightfall sniffed the air. The wind was coming from the pond, carrying the scent of water and crushed water plants, healthy animals, and old blood. The scent excited his hunting instincts, made him want to charge out onto the plain in search of blood, and he wasn't even hungry. "No wonder the chicks are so worked up," he said, seeing the same restlessness in the eyes of his packmates. Windrunner snorted and edged toward where Little Growl looked to be on the verge of leaving the forest. Little Growl hissed at him, and Windrunner bowled the chick over with his muzzle. "They don't have the sense of a stone," Windrunner growled, as Little Growl picked herself up and scurried over to rejoin the other chicks. "They're chicks. Chicks don't think, they react." Onyx fluffed and sleeked her feathers. "They will learn. You were just like them at that age." Windrunner bristled, prickly in the first flush of his youthful strength. "Why do I have to be the one to watch them while the rest of you hunt?" "You don't." Evening Mist flicked her crest feathers in gentle reprimand. "We're counting on your speed to cut the injured Corythosaurus from the herd. I'm the one who will keep the chicks out of the way." Windrunner flattened his feathers in apology, then his crest perked up again. "Am I working alone or with a partner?" "Morning Fog is almost as fast as you are." Nightfall dipped his head toward Morning Fog. "I'm sure the pair of you can cut our target off from the rest. Keep it away from the water. Onyx will take Talon along the other side of the creature after the herd begins to run. I will be waiting with Bonebreaker some distance ahead of the herd. Drive our target toward us, and we can all close in on it together." "Can I watch?" Neckbiter popped up unexpectedly from behind the clustered adults. Bonebreaker hissed in surprise, while Talon and Windrunner raised their crests. Onyx chirruped amusement. "Quite the stalker, aren't you, little one?" she asked, ducking down to the chick's level. Neckbiter preened under her mother's approval. Nightfall gently closed his jaws around the chick and carried her over to where Evening Mist was marshaling the other chicks. He dropped Neckbiter beside the other chicks and crouched beside her. You can watch from here. If I let you come any closer to the hunt, the others will want to come too. 5 excited chicks close to the hunt are a little much. Neckbiter drooped. Don't fret. Soon enough you'll be old enough to start practicing your hunting skills on small game. For now, just watch how the pack works as one to feed everyone. Runs in the Ferns and Neckbiter rubbed their heads against their father's muzzle. The other chicks sulked, except for Little Growl. She was Evening Mist's chick and was pleased to have her mother's attention. I'm hungry, Tail Chaser whined. We set out for the hunt soon. Be patient. Nightfall gave all the chicks a hard stare, then turned and trotted back to where the others awaited him. Why don't we practice our pouncing skills by seeing who can catch the most bugs? Evening Mist asked brightly. The chicks responded to this suggestion with varying degrees of resignation, except for Neckbiter, who piped up with, When is the hunt going to take place? Not yet, Evening Mist said. The others are waiting for hunger to strike. You can run faster with an empty stomach. But I'm hungry now. Squealer puffed out her neck feathers. Then let's catch some bugs. That will serve as a snack while we wait for the hunters to return. The youngsters groaned but accepted this. Soon there was a fierce competition among them as they snapped up crawling insects and tried to catch dragonflies. Evening Mist turned her head toward where the others waited and raised her crest feathers. Her packmates dipped their heads in acknowledgement. Windrunner and Morning Fog prowled out of the forest and stalked their way toward the Corythosaurs, moving from one patch of cover to the next, getting as close to the herd as they could before they were spotted. Behind them, the others took up their positions and waited, tense and ready. The Corythosaurs were large, duck-billed creatures with a bony crest. An adult was around 30 feet long and had nothing to fear from dromaeosaurs under normal circumstances, but they were more wary of the smaller predators with young to raise. Windrunner and Morning Fog had closed half the distance between the forest and the herd when one of the Corythosaurs looked up and honked in alarm. The adults could have closed ranks to defend their young, but the younger Corythosaurs had been badly spooked by the unknown attacker who had injured one of their number, and they took flight. The adults were forced to flee along with their young in order to protect them. Onyx and Talon darted out of hiding as the herd thundered toward them. They heard the nasal honks and the shriller honking from the back of the herd where the injured Corythosaurus was slowly being herded away from the others by Windrunner and Morning Fog, nipping at its head inside. The herd thundered away, but the injured one was too slow to keep up with the others. As its cries grew more frantic, Nightfall and Bonebreaker broke cover in front of it, effectively cutting it off from the rest of the herd. The 15-foot animal was a bit of a challenge for the dromaeosaurs, but it was already weakened. Bonebreaker and Nightfall focused their attacks on the creature's wounded flank, hoping to force it onto its side where its vulnerable throat would be in reach of the others. The Corythosaurus reared onto its hind legs, squealing with pain and fright as Onyx and Talon ripped into its underbelly. Windrunner leaped onto the animal's back, biting savagely at the back of its neck while Morning Fog snaked in low, attempting to hamstring the animal's good leg. She succeeded and was nearly crushed when the Corythosaurus fell heavily on its good side, kicking feebly with its wounded leg. Nightfall took a foot to the head and staggered back, dazed. Onyx roared and lashed out with a vicious kick, her sickle claw ripping the prey's throat open. Blood sprayed over her feathers, and the rest of the pack fell away, waiting for the few moments it took for the animal to die. Food! Squealer howled from the forest's edge, racing past Evening Mist and into the open. Stay back, it's not dead yet, Evening Mist snarled, running after the chick. Squealer reached the Corythosaurus just as it convulsed one last time in its death throes. She took a heavy blow from the animal's tail. She let out one short, sharp cry of pain and tumbled to the ground, silent and still. Talon reached his chick just as Evening Mist did. He nudged Squealer with his muzzle, but she didn't move. He crouched and put his nostrils next to hers, but he couldn't feel any breath. I'm sorry, Evening Mist said as he stood up and faced the other chicks. They were so excited by the scent of blood it was hard to hold them back. She slipped past me too fast. Morning Fog hurried to Talon's side. She leaned down and nuzzled her chick, crooning with worry. Let this serve as a lesson to the rest of you, Talon said coldly. Never run toward an animal in its death throes. The chicks huddled, scared and bewildered. Tailchaser asked, Is Squealer okay? She's dead. Talon's voice was roughened by his grief. He turned his back on the other chicks and hovered over Morning Fog, who had her eyes clenched shut as if to deny what they had seen. She continued to nuzzle Squealer, making pitiful noises. Not Squealer, Tailchaser said, now the only surviving chick of Talon and Morning Fog. He crept closer to where his sister lay. She was fine. She was... Morning Fog threw back her head and howled, a shriek of pain and denial. Talon laid his chin on her hips in an effort to comfort her, but she gave no sign that she noticed him. Tailchaser butted Squealer with his head several times, but she didn't so much as twitch. He circled around her and nipped her tail, bit at her limp crest of feathers, to no effect. He raised his head to stare at his parents, too confused to be grief-stricken. Evening Mist came up on Morning Fog's other side, offering comfort to her sister. Losses were common to the pack. Sometimes none of the chicks that made it to hatching survived to adulthood. The pack was doing well to have this many chicks half-grown. After a few minutes of mourning, the pack turned its attention toward food. Even Tailchaser, still confused over the loss of his sister, left off nudging her in order to fill his stomach. Morning Fog stayed beside Squealer the longest, but she couldn't devote too much of her attention to the dead when the living needed care. Eventually, she left Squealer's body behind without a backward glance. And that's all of that chapter.
Wow, went by quick. I gotta say, man, there is something unique, something special about this voice. And like after hearing a couple chapters, it's drama, but it's the drama that's between kind of like a soap opera and like Nat Geo, you know. The way that a good narrator in Nat Geo can make the drama of nature unfold. You've captured that. You got something really hot bottled there. I mean, what you did with the little chick and how all that played out, like that tugs at your heartstrings. You know, these are all carnivorous reptiles, which to me is like, I'm horrified of stuff like that. But I'm feeling for him. Like you got some kind of network to apathy, empathy, all that stuff. Like, do I care? Do I not? I care a lot. Like it's very, very interesting. You feel that pain, and the language is delicious. That's part of the reason for it. But Tom, what did you think of that read, man?
Oh, I enjoyed that a lot. I mean, really feel sorry for those Corythosauruses, that are being targeted without them knowing it.
That's wild. Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, and it's also the, oh boy, how could I put it? The characters, the non-human characters that are so sympathetic and so fleshed out. Like, right?
She's got it. It's true. Now you do dinosaurs great. You do cryptids great. Like we feel like we're in their habitat. We're in their mind. Amazing situation. Very, very talented. Now, I heard you were saying how you were going to be working on an AI story. How do you think, Amber, how do you think you're going to, I figured I'd ask you, I know it's a little spur of the moment, but I figured Tom's here, you know, Tom's got sci-fi hot and cold running. So go ahead. Well, how are you going to do the non-human intelligence of an AI, you know?
Well, I'm not done with my research yet, which involves 2 AI chat programs that I downloaded and I'm currently interacting with on a regular basis.
That's kind of scary.
Well, neither one of them's going to pass a Turing test, but they're both learning.
Yeah, well,
And
go ahead,
it
go ahead.
just
Let's hear.
gives me a better understanding of what AIs are capable of and what they could be capable of and what they would be capable of in the future. And because this AI is going to be a future one, it's going to be an intergalactic spaceship with the AI computer brain running things, and the human cargo is cryogenically frozen, and the ship's primary function is to protect its human cargo. So it's serious about that. It thinks that it's not sure what's going to happen to it if the cargo dies and it no longer has a purpose. So it's real serious about taking care of these people, and not all of the humans are unaware while they're in cryo sleep. Some of them are kind of dreaming. And this young colonist with psychic abilities basically unites them in a dream world to keep them sane. And the AI computer finds a way to join the dream world to help them cope and figure out what's happening to the dream world when everything starts to unravel.
Sounds great. Sounds like the Ridley Scott hypersleep that we all know and love, which is a fantastic genre of sci-fi. A great place to go for that is Raised by Wolves on HBO. As far as that whole holographic dream world thing, and the Prometheus film, which you either like it or you hate it, but it's got that whole I'm dreaming and I'm in a virtual memory, or I'm in some kind of construct. So that'd be a good place to turn for that part of it. And that's the key, is research. Tom, when you go about a project, what do you do for research? Something you need to know in order to make it convincing, you know?
I give some thought about where I could possibly find the information. Sometimes it's rough. My library is about 3 blocks away, so that's always a good place to start. There's always good old, I hate to say it, good old Google. I type in a search and just get an idea what's out there.
Yeah,
Amazon, you know. I would say
absolutely.
about AI. That's fascinating. A book called Demon Seed for Amber is by Dean Koontz. It's about a highly advanced computer that one day its creator is tinkering around, and it develops AI, and it's okay for a while. Then it realizes that it says, but now I want to live, and it's about its efforts to create a living being to inject itself into.
Oh,
Yeah,
I never read that one, but it sounds
interesting.
yeah. It
Yeah,
basically
yeah.
involves the computer making a woman pregnant, and it's wow, boy, it right between the eyes hit you like, is this computer actually going to be able to do this? And
I thought I was the only one who wrote this stuff. What's going on? I should have read Kuntz years ago, man.
He's very good.
Yeah, he's been recommended to me like crazy. Well,
yeah, if you want something super dark, creepy, and twisted, try False Memory by Dean Koontz. It's about this sadistic doctor who hypnotizes people into doing things, brainwashes them, gives them control words where if he activates the control word, the mind will blank out. They'll do whatever he tells them to do and have no memory of it afterward.
Interesting.
Mentioning
Anyway, to get back to research, often I write something that's on a periphery at the very least of something I know, and I have a pretty good sized library, that I usually find what I want in my own personal library.
Right on.
Yeah. Or enough to give me inspiration to a kernel that I could create it all the rest from inside my head, for want of a better way of putting it.
Yeah, you just gotta get it. You gotta get it where it becomes believable or authentic. There has to be enough terminology, industrial terminology, some kind of unique expo, or in the case of you guys have your own voices already. Tom with your politics, Amber with your thoughtscaping inside dinosaur habitats, like where I feel like I'm there and I'm somehow able to be there and not get devoured. Impressive, very impressive simulation, a lot of talent. Thank you both for reading today. A crazy haphazard show, but I had a blast. I hope you guys did too out there in TV land. So, ooh, awful echo. Sound like Bugs Bunny. What's going on? All right, it's time for us to call it.
That's a sheer sign.
Yeah, plugs. Tom, lay it on me, man. What are you plugging?
I have 2 short story collections. Dwellers in the Shadows and Is It Still Out There? Both of them available on Amazon. And
go get them. Go get them.
You can check it out also on Goodreads. It's available. I'm starting to spread out my availability. But Amazon and Goodreads are good spots. You can find them.
Yeah. All right. That's wonderful. Tom Tiernan, folks, head over to Amazon. Amber, what are you plugging?
Still the Death's Nightmare series, because the Shattered Sky doesn't get launched until December, so people can't buy it yet.
Check it out. Death's Nightmare, Amber Danson, Amazon. My name is Richard Andrew Ulkis. Richard Andrew Ulkis. Go over to Amazon and check out Babbletron, After the Fire. It's a dystopian cyberpunk book. People dig it. It's not that much. Go check it out. Let us know what you think. Thank you for watching JWC Livestream Story Autopsy with Ricky and Tom. Special guest Amber Danson. Head over to joeswritersclub.com, joeswriters.club for our forums. Check us out on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and head over to our YouTube page. Please like and subscribe. We're trying to grow our community, and we appreciate everything you could do for us. Thanks a lot for listening, and we'll see you soon, folks. Say bye, all.